Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Dr. Chris Featherstone. I'm here once again for another episode live here of UnSKripted. Gonna have fun, as always, ladies and gentlemen, with round two. You know what? This person was so popular that we had to do round two. The first time it went so fast. We were just talking about that. It was so fast last time that we had to bring him on once again. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the All-American boy, Jacques the Mountie Rougeau. How are you tonight, sir?
Hi, Chris.
Hey.
I can't hear you very well. I could just barely hear you.
You could barely hear me. I don't know what's going on.
Let me see if
here.
I could do something here on my end here.
Let's bring up that
How about
volume.
that?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Okay. I can't
Good?
hear you much, but I can hear you.
Okay. Good. Let's see how we can do this. Can you hear me good? You good?
About 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, but
okay, let's try
I
again.
can hear you. It's 11 o'clock at night, so there's not too many noises here, so I think we'll be okay.
Sounds good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. I really am. Considering what's going on around the world there, I'm hanging in there.
Yes, indeed. We were chatting a lot today, and you sent me a video of, tis the season. We're talking about the Undertaker here. You sent me a video, and you said you're the only person who was able to pile drive the Undertaker 3 straight times, and it was a UK special. I can hear myself echoed, so let's try plugging that back in.
Yeah, I'm trying to plug it in. I can hear you when I'm not plugged in. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, good, awesome.
We're good. I got this cheap equipment.
You were able to pile drive the Undertaker. It was a UK special show. You sent me a very interesting match there, and you were able to pile drive the Undertaker 3 straight times, and you were healing it up really tough in the Mountie, and the only way the Mountie could, and you got him in a package pile driver. And I followed just about every match that you had as the Mountie. I never saw you do a package pile driver, and you did it on the Undertaker. You did it very well.
No, thank you. I actually showed a lot of my students that move, and it's a very delicate move. It's not like giving a pile driver. A pile driver, there's this kind of a space where you could have a little missing area. But when you put the guy in a ball like that, there's no margin of errors. But what was fun about that is like Mark was coming in the territory then, not long anyway. And when we got together for the match, he had this high opinion of me, and he told me, he said, Jacques, because I came up with the idea, and I said, hey, it's going to look good. I'll give you a pile driver, and you're going to stand right back up. And then we put our minds together, and then he says, well, let's do another one, and let's do another one. So I was amazed because how many incidents could and have happened with the pile driver. So it was kind of a compliment that it was wonderful working with Mark at the time, but not a lot more today because he's so big today. Yeah. I look back at that match and say, wow, that was a good spot.
Yeah, that was a good spot. I agree, absolutely. Speaking of package pile drivers, someone who has really made the package pile driver very, very famous, which is Kevin Owens. Rougeau's asking, how was it training Kevin Owens, and what do you think of all the success he has attained in his career?
Kevin Owens was a phenomenon when he came to my wrestling school. He was 5 years at my wrestling school, and but he had this ability of learning fast. And listen, I haven't followed Kevin's career that much after he left because we didn't leave in quite great terms when he left my territory. So I didn't follow up on him, but I noticed that success was following him, and amazing to see myself in the ring at so many times because the way he kicks, the way the promos, because when I take the guys in my school, I used to teach them from scratch. Like it was not only in the ring, but it was the mic, and it was the entrance and the arenas. It was a lot, and so he was really a great talent, a natural talent.
Nice. When did he leave your wrestling school?
Jesus Christ, you're asking me a lot here. Let me see here.
That's why I get paid the big bucks, Jacques. That's why I get paid the big bucks.
That's it, baby. Now let me see. He must have left my school. I'm gonna guess 2012, 2011. Not quite sure. He came to see me when he was like 14 years old.
Okay.
And he left, he was 18, 19. So if you know his age, then you'll be able to know that he came to see me at 14 years old. So I don't know how old he is today.
Owens is about 34, 35 now.
So it would be 20 years ago.
He's 36.
He's 36.
Yeah.
36?
Yeah.
So he came to see me at 14. That was 22 years ago?
Yeah. 22
Jesus
years ago.
Christ.
Wow.
How time flies, huh?
2000 and... You said 22 years, 1998?
Amazing.
Wow.
It can't be 98. It can't be. We're taking 10 years off there somewhere. Okay. Because I started my company, and it could be in 2002, 2003. Okay. Yeah, I'd have to look it up. Chris, you got me against the ropes there. I don't have I only know that he was there for 4 years, and after that, then he went to
2002 sounds about right, because I know that he was in Ring of Honor for a while. Around the later 2000s. I know that. Let me see. Let me check and see his first match. His first match was. Let's see. His first match was in 2000. His first match was in 2000. Was in Montreal against Gorgeous Mike.
Oh yeah, so those were my boys. That was my whole school. Yeah. And we had a falling out, Kevin and I. One reason was because he didn't respect the fact that my boys were not allowed to go wrestle in other companies. And that was a rule that was very hard for the boys to understand, because everybody wanted to go and learn and get a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But the thing was, Chris, that I was doing tremendously well with my company, and I was selling out all my arenas with 3,000-4,000 people, but with no TVs. And I was just going from company to company and selling a market that was no sex, no drugs, no violence. There was no girls in my shows. It was really oriented towards kids. But the thing was, with all my shows sold out, all my shows were sold out, every one after the other. Not because it was easily done. I had to go work very hard. But the thing was, he was such a great talent, and the talent that I produced, that I taught in the wrestling business, and then they did my shows, is I went into every companies and I told them, hey, wait till you see the match against Spider-Man against the Mummy, and then wait till you see this match, Kevin Steen was his name at the time, Kevin Steen against Gorgeous Mike, that guy, those guys are great. So I was selling all these talent to the companies where I was going, but then many times at the beginning, the guys would go to a spot show on a Friday night and hurt an ankle or something, so they wouldn't be able to come to my 5,000 people show because they were in front of 25 people the night before and they hurt themselves.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if you understand where I was going. And I didn't have much matches in my shows. Like in my shows, I had 6 or 7 matches. So I needed every one of them to be there and healthy. And plus all the time that I was giving, the experience I was giving, and especially the experience. Kevin Owens just didn't become a good talker and a good entertainer just out of nowhere. He started in a business where there was 3, 4, 5,000 people. So, he knew right then how to deal with it. And the first, believe me, the first night he went to the ring, I'm sure I had a lot of corrections to give to him, but that's the way it was. But he was a good student. He was great. So after we had our falling out, and a couple of boys were against my policy, which I respected. I told the guys, hey, listen, you want to go wrestle to other federations, do it, but I'm not going to be using you. And that was my choice. It was my company. It was my business. And I did 20 years of great success with my business like that. But I understand the boys. I do. I understand the boys being upset that they can't go wrestle for the other federations. So it was like a knife with like we say in French, a double tranchant, which means is you could cuts both ways.
Yeah, double-edged sword. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Prete is asking, what was it like beating Hulk Hogan clean? We know Hogan was very protective of his place spot. Did you have to convince him to lose clean, or was he open to it?
No, I was. It's amazing. It was amazing. He was in front of all the boys in Montreal when it happened that night. I didn't expect to go over at all. I was just happy to be in the ring with him, and I was just hoping that he'd make me look good in my hometown, before he beat me up. And when we got in the dressing room, Harlem Heat was there. There's a lot of guys were there in the dressing room. Ric Flair and a lot of guys were there, and he just came out in front of everybody. He says, "Well, Jacques, what are we doing tonight?" And I started laughing like really loud, like, he got me, it must have been pressure releasing or something. But I said, very funny, Hulk, very funny. I said, so what do you want to do? How do we do this? He says, you're the boss. And, it was my show. I booked that show. And so he says, and I still laughing. And then at that, I realized in his face, he was serious, that he wanted me to go over. And I was like, that'll be a mystery for many, many, many years. I think there may have seen something with Bischoff there that he wanted to prove, or who was the boss, or there was something that I did not catch on to that. It was just circumstantial, but I guess I was part of the collateral damage that had between both of them. And I just collected. I was just there saying, okay, I'll use a small package if you want. But I said, I want you to beat me up real bad the whole match. But we had a great match, and it was a stiff match. It was a stiff match because when Hulk got in the ring in front of 20,000 fans, he didn't think, especially he was NWO, he was a heel, and I was a baby face in Montreal, always been a big baby face. He didn't expect to have 99% of the people cheering for him. He was supposed to be a heel, and 99% of the people were booing me in my hometown. So it's like, so it's very weird. So when he got into the ring there, he I don't know if he changed his mind or something, but it got stiff. I'll tell you. But it was amazing. He gave me such notoriety in front of a lot of enemies and the boys, and a lot of notoriety in the fans. Because
That's really cool. Yeah, April 11th, 1997, a house show at the Barry Molson Center in
The
Montreal.
Molson Center, yeah, and that's something. Who could say they beat Hulk Hogan with a pin?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, a clean pin.
Yeah, that's major. Absolutely.
Yeah. For me, it was definitely major.
Absolutely. Michael's asking, what made you leave WWE?
Oh my God, that would be too much of a long story, but I'll tell you a few things.
In French, WWE, right?
Yeah, WWE, and there's so
It's like
many,
little French.
so many, very good, so many decisions
Merci.
that I'd like to. Bienvenue. Tequila, no, that's Spanish.
Yeah, I was like, wrong country.
But no, I'll tell you, it's amazing how when I left Vince, it all started at one point. Our problems between me and him was at WrestleMania 10, when for 6 months before the show, we were getting beat. Carl and I, PCO, we were getting beat every night by everybody, by every newcomer tag team, by the Conquistadors, by every underneath bottom, but they were always promising us every night for like 6 months, hey Jacques, don't worry, because on the WrestleMania 10 you're wrestling the moms, the men on a mission, and he says you guys are going to take the belts back. So now we're going to build everybody around, give credibility to everybody around, and then when you guys take the belt back, people are going to forget that you guys did job for like 6 months, that you got beat. So for 6 months, I went doing jobs even into my hometown in Montreal against a lousy team, not a lousy play, not a lousy boys. I mean, just not well placed on the card, like really in the bottom of the card in my hometown, and we'd do a job. But then it would be like, don't worry, Jacques, you'll get all your value, your merchandise value, or your, I don't know how to say that, your value, your value. You get it all back when you win the belts. And 1 hour before the show, Pat Patterson came to see me, and he said, Jacques, I want to talk to you. And then he gave me the news. And from that day on, Jacques Rougeau and Vince McMahon, it was the end. I went to see Vince in the dressing room, and I told him, Vince, I said, if you don't mind taking your book out, telling me where I'm booked at. I was booked like 2 months ahead. I was booked in Israel, Tel Aviv, and Jerusalem, and that was the last dates I was booked. And then I told him, I said, Vince, I said, that's it. I'm quitting after that, because I didn't agree him. I didn't like the fact that I was promised this. I know it's a show, I know it's business, but the people have no idea how much there's real feelings in this business. Like we thrive to get up the ladder. We thrive to when that's your life, like it was mine. And when you're a professional, like I was with my brother Raymond and Carl and the guys that I worked with in the past, we give 100%. We don't give 50%. We give 100% of our time. That means 5 o'clock in the morning signing an autograph for a fan, or that means being on time every night, and that means performing in the ring 100%. That was us. So from that day on, there was a fallout. I had one of my retirement matches against Carl, because he turned on me against the Islanders. Finally, they got the titles, and Samu and those guys took it off us, and that was the end. I had my last retirement match with Carl. Then I went WCW. I worked a deal with them, and then after that, Bischoff and we didn't hit it off. I must not have hit it off with a lot of people, but anyway, those French Canadians. I'll tell you, but I'll tell you,
I found it was just a weird stint in WWE. You were the amazing French Canadians at that time, right? I just I remember it. I'm buddies with Bischoff, and so, but I just remember at that time, you were so big as the Mountie, you were so big as the Quebecers. But when y'all went to WCW's Amazing French Canadians, it was just really middle of the road, and it was just a weird spot.
It was bad, but at the same time, I think those guys were trying to get the talent off of Vince, and it was like a battle between companies. But to be honest with you, I think the best of my years were behind me then. And to be honest,
You got a paycheck. You got a good paycheck.
I got a
didn't you?
good paycheck, but you know, I was at a point in my career where I wasn't happy with getting a check. I've always been a performer. I've always been a guy who likes to be included or let me go, but don't. So I fought for a place, and so what can I say? I'm sure today, if I went back in those days, if I turned back, I'd do things differently. There's many things that I do differently, Lord knows. But you know, experience is one thing you don't buy. You gotta earn it. You gotta learn it, and then you gotta try to understand it. And I'm 60 years old today, and I just wish I could go back when I was 20 years old with what I know today in the business, because the business is a very, very hard place to find a place and to find yourself and to be comfortable with it. I know I wasn't able to do that. Like I've explained in the past, when we did the last interview, I've had a hard time comprehending a lot of things in real life and in the business, and the boys, you know, the boys. It's not going to church there, you know. It's like it's not hanging around the. I don't know what to say. It's a different world, the wrestling world, and especially in the years that I was in it. It was like a lot of people and characters that were. That they believed in their own characters. That they were the business was not real. It was a work, but some of the boys, you know, they just, I don't know how to explain it.
Kayfabe was like real at that time. They kind of lived in their character, lived and breathed their character. Yeah.
And so for me, it was a hard time. And plus, the other thing too that I've learned to realize is all my promos and my interviews, because I tried to put the finger on the spot. Why have some heat with some guys, you know, because I was obnoxious and I was young and I was blah, blah, but I wasn't mean
You
to
were
anybody.
handsome, brave, and strong.
But I wasn't mean to anybody. I wasn't. I was just one of those guys, I guess, that got on some guys' nerves, and I'm trying to understand, and sometimes even today I stop and think and I say, was it because my gimmick too, like, you know, we always laughed at the Americans. Like, you know, every time, you know, it was like the fabulous Rougeau brothers just mocking you guys. The Mountie, you were a bunch of hillbillies, you know, and then but it was, and I think maybe my jokes or maybe my character got in some heat. And when I was speaking French in the dressing room, you know, a lot, because it was my native language. It was easy for me to do, express myself with Ricky Martel or the guys that spoke French, or René Goulet or Pat Patterson or Raymond or whatever, Dino Bravo. And so we spoke French, you know, this, and I think that got heat too. So but I honestly would like to go back, not start back my career. I would like to comprehend it more.
Yeah.
You know, the business.
Jacques, they were just jealous. You know, they wanted to speak French. You know, they wanted to parler français. You know,
tu parles très bien français, mon ami. You should have Robin Maillet on your podcast.
You said, you know what? I'm gonna translate. You said very good French, my friend. Right?
Yeah. How come you know so much French?
I took French. I took French and like 3 years in high school and like two quarters in college.
So you must know the famous song in the earlier years, Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce
yes,
soir?
will you go to bed with me tonight? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you're a ladies' man. You're a ladies' man.
Yes. Thank God I'm a one lady man now. Yeah. So 10 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, you know, I need to talk to you in French, man. We need to have some French conversations. I want to brush up my French real good. I want to be like super fluent. Like I can like you can see I can talk and translate and stuff like that. I was actually pretty surprised that about a year ago I was talking to someone in French at my church actually, and she her native language was French. And she started speaking French with her friend and stuff like that. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, I can actually understand what you're saying." Like,
hey, that could be good and bad. That could be good and bad.
I was telling her like, "Je comprends."
I understand. Yeah, it reminds me of a movie I saw just last week. What women want or what men want. You know, they read the mind, and you understanding the French like that.
Yeah.
It's like I remember when I was in Mexico. I understand a little bit of Spanish because Spanish and French have very similar vocabulary, and so I was understanding, catching on a lot of things. Mais toi, mon ami, tu as déjà été à Paris?
I've never been to Paris.
Have you ever been? That's what I'm asking you.
I've never been to Paris.
You've never been to Paris?
Yeah, I've never been to Paris.
Well, answer me in French.
No.
Non, j'ai pas été à Paris.
Yeah, j'ai pas été
à Paris.
À Paris, yes.
Yeah.
Oui, yes.
Oui. tu aimerais beaucoup Paris parce que c'est la ville de l'amour.
The city of
love.
Of love, yes.
Yes, Paris. You would love Paris because it's the city of love.
I want to go. Actually, it's one of my places. One of my biggest places I want to go. So
there's a river. There's a nice river called La Seine. It's called La Seine. It's a river, and it goes underneath the Eiffel Tower, the place that lights up there. How does it called? There's l'Arc de Triomphe and there's la Tour Eiffel.
La Tour Eiffel.
La Tour Eiffel. And at 10 o'clock at night, it all starts flashing like Vince used to do in his cameras when he used to start the show, in the WWF when they used to have all kinds of cameras in the stands. Well, the Tour Eiffel, c'est la même chose, mon ami. Tu vas avec une jolie demoiselle et puis l'amour, c'est beau l'amour.
Yeah.
C'est beau l'amour.
or Mrs. Mademoiselle, yeah.
Yeah, make sure you don't say mistress.
Yeah.
It's Mrs.
Yeah, Mrs. Yep, absolutely. Yep. That's fun. It's fun, man.
Tell me, how long have you worked in the business, Chris?
It's been hold on, let me say. 10 years?
10 years that you've been working or you haven't been working?
I have in the pro wrestling business as a journalist. Yeah, it's been about 10 years.
But you've never wrestled?
I used to amateur wrestle, actually. I used to.
So you never did so you never came at the WWF in those cities?
No, I was actually offered twice I was offered on two different occasions to start wrestling independently. One was about over 20 years ago, and the other one was probably about 6 or 7. I declined both of them. The first time I was offered an indie contract, I was in a really serious relationship, and I was offered at a county fair. Someone really liked my build and offered me a contract to be a part of an independent contract. And the other one was at B Dubs. It's a BW3 is a big restaurant chain we have here in the States. And it's probably about 7 or so years ago. Someone really liked my build because I was a personal trainer for a long time, and they really liked my build and offered me a independent a spot to be an independent contract. And so, at that time, I was heavily involved in a relationship with my now wife. So yeah.
You made the right choice.
I did, and now I'm a doctor, so I'm cool. Yeah.
Wow. So where did the interest of wrestling came in?
Oh, it's been a long time, man. My late grandma, she actually grew up. From the womb to now. I mean, she passed away when I was 14. That was a long time ago, and so I grew up. I mean, my great grandma, she watched wrestling like crazy. And
the chair was moving in the living room.
No, and that's true. Like my brother and I, my brother's only a year younger than me, and my brother and I, we had like a floor model TV, and she was ailing. She was in her 60s, and she was behind us in a recliner with a cane. And it was like, that's the reason why to this day I still love kayfabe, because it was real to her. It was so real to her. She would like yell at the TV. She would throw her cane at the TV at the heels and stuff like that. And it was fascinating to me. It was, a comic book come to life. And because my great grandma, she passed away when I was going to high school. I told her, I kept watching wrestling in honor of my great
yeah,
grandma.
to
Yeah.
remember her.
Yep. So I've never stopped watching wrestling ever since grew up in the '80s. I've never stopped watching wrestling for the past 30 years, 35 years. Yeah.
It's amazing when I do my conferences and I meet people here and there. The older people, they just, it was great. I met a woman, she was about 80 years old last year, I remember, and she told me, she says, Mr. Rougeau, she says, I got to tell you a story. She says, my husband is about 82 years old, and but at the time, we were young, like 20 some years old, and he says he was always with a tie and a suit, and he was always articulate in how he was speaking, and he was incredibly handsome, and I had this image of him, and then one morning I came by unexpectedly, and he was watching wrestling on TV, and I saw another man.
Yep, that's how my great grandma was. I mean, she would just yell at the
Cussing and swearing.
She would hate the heel, and to this day.
But what an entertainment, right? What a great entertainment.
Yes, it was fantastic. Wrestling got me out of a lot of trouble, man. I've shared this. I've been very public about this before. Like I was, like my path, going into high school, it was heading the wrong direction, and wrestling, keeping my love for wrestling got me out of a lot.
Do your homework, brother, and take your vitamins.
Yeah, and it was one of those things. Like I was like really starting to like endeavor into some crazy things and hang around the wrong crowd. And my thing was my parents, growing up, like, yeah, you won't watch wrestling if you do X, Y, and Z. And I was like, oh man, I gotta watch wrestling. I gotta be able to straighten there. I mean, I was a crazy kid, in high school, but I was like, you know what, I'll do the best I can to get out of trouble, because you can't take wrestling away from me.
Well, you seem to be doing good today, though. You seem to be doing a lot of good things today. You know who we need to have on your podcast? You need to invite Jimmy Hart.
Yeah, give me his info. Man.
I'll send you his number, and I'll ask him to give you an interview. You're very kind, but you'll have so much fun with Jimmy. Jesus Christ, he's an encyclopedia of wrestling, and all the things he did with the music before wrestling. He used to sing. He used to sing with a group called the Gentrys.
Yes,
and that was that was a long time ago.
I wasn't around during that time, but I knew he did.
But he's amazing, and he's the best manager in the whole world. I've seen them all come and go, and but Jimmy Hart would have so many stories to tell you, and I'll send you the coordinates for him.
Yes,
It'd be awesome.
You got time for one more question, real quick?
Yeah. I'm fine.
Right.
I'm fine.
This is fun. I really enjoyed myself, man. I gotta call you so you can sharpen my French. I want to become fluent, man. I mean, I was fluent for a while. This was, 20 years ago, but I'm not as fluent as used to be. So
I'll prepare you a list of a few things the next time we speak.
Sounds good. All right, let's see what we got here. Last question.
Take your time. Make it a good one.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's do. Okay, here's one. Andre, tell a story about Owen Hart, Shawn Michaels, and Macho Man Randy Savage. Either one or all of them. Just give me a good backstage story.
Wow. Well, Jesus Christ. You're talking about some good years in the business now, Owen Hart. Let me start with Owen Hart. He's just the greatest guy in the business. He used to be the nicest kid. Everybody loved Owen Hart. He had no enemies. He was awesome. I'm just trying to think. You say Owen Hart, we all think the same thing. It's like a scar. It's like something. What happened with him? It's a business he did that I did every day. It was so. I don't know.
Do you think it was the right call for Vince to continue that pay-per-view when they knew that he passed?
I think everybody knows the answer to that, but a businessman is a businessman, and it always will be. Macho Man, it's funny, and it's funny you talk about Owen. I did a podcast because I have my own podcast now, and I did one with Bret Hart. If ever you have a chance to go see it, Rougeau podcast with Bret Hart, you'll enjoy the stories that we talk about when we were young and when I went to wrestle for his dad, and he was driving the bus. He wasn't even wrestling yet, and then he told me in my podcast, he said, I saw you wrestle and you were doing good. He says, well, I said to myself, if he could do it, I could sure do it. So the Hart family, awesome. So many things. Macho Man, I'm trying to think of something Shawn Michaels I spoke with about a month ago, because he sent me a message for Bret for my podcast that you'll see a message of Shawn Michaels to Bret on my podcast. Nice. So that's funny. It was a little awkward, but very funny. Yeah. But you see, it was going with the very delicate and the conversation. Macho Man. Is there no heat? You
still feel the animosity?
No more heat. I met these guys. We actually went to Winchester, England, about 4 years ago for a Comic-Con. And we all met, me, Bret, and Shawn, and we talked about the good old days, the fabulous Rougeau brothers against the Hart Foundation and the Rockers, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. So we went all over the good stuff, and and it was so funny because we have certain cliches and certain souvenirs that during the work that we used to do, all these guys together with us, that we'd have some fun moments, like in matches, some moments that we would laugh interiorly, that while we're doing our business, it was so funny. And one of them was when I do a spot with Bret where he had me in a headlock, Bret, and I'd shoot him off into the ropes. He'd give me a tackle. He'd hit the ropes again. I'd drop down. He'd jump over me, and then he'd come off the ropes again. I'd leapfrog. I'd jump in the air, and he'd go between my legs running, and I'd roll on my back, and I'd put my feet up in the air like they give him a reverse monkey flip. Mm-hmm. And he used to drop his elbow on me right then instead of taking the flip, and I'd be wiggling like a fish, and then I'd be going towards the ropes, and then I'd get up, and finally when the ref would get me back in the ring, I'd turn around and I would wait till it was a silent moment, and I turned around and I'd look at the people out of nowhere and I'd go, "He got me right in the throat!" But I'd scream like an old lady, that was... And it was epic for us. And every time we'd go to do that move, I could see their faces starting to laugh again. Oh, Jacques' gonna scream like a girl again. But yeah, listen, these are all. I could go on and on about these guys. It's what? I'll tell you a secret, Chris. You're gonna like this because I see you're a good-hearted man. Something happened extraordinary when I called Shawn Michaels. Mm-hmm. I hadn't spoke to him maybe in 15 years, 20 years, I don't know. And when he answered the phone, I started crying. I couldn't speak for about 20 seconds, And he told me, he said, "It's okay, Jacques, it's okay." And that's all he said, "It's okay, it's okay." And then I got a hold of myself, I got my breath back, and then we started talking, and then I asked, but it was like finding my family again. I spend so many hours with these guys in the gym, in the planes, and everywhere. Yeah. So it was a very touching moment when I talked to Shawn there.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
It was very touching.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let the listeners know about your podcast, man. It's been a fun ride. I didn't think it was going to be as good as I was expecting it to be as good as the last one, but it was been better. So
Rougeau podcast, if you want to go see a Bret interview, and I got a couple interviews. I'm going to do more now starting next week in English and with the boys, like you're doing, not as professional, but me, it's just to keep me busy during this COVID time and keeping me connected with my fans in the area, because I was doing one-man shows. I'm going to start doing that again when society starts going again, hopefully in June next year I'll be able to start giving shows again. That's what I'm aiming for, is with all these vaccine that they're talking about and this and that, hopefully that in June life will start taking its normal told again.
Yeah, I
And,
was listening to. I've been following it pretty tough, and they were saying that they're optimistic about return to normalcy. Around springtime next year. So
oh
hopefully that's the
wow,
case. Yeah.
amazing how we appreciate things when we don't have
Oh
them.
yeah, that's very true. Yeah, man. I'll we'll talk off the air, man. Yeah,
Get some French going.
yeah. So we
Yeah.
and we you got a lot of context that I want to have too to bring on my show. So
Very
yeah,
funny.
love to, yeah.
I won't give you the French lines to seduce your wife. I'll give you the French lines to entretien to like when you have something, you got to take care of it.
Yes,
It's
yes,
like so now it's you have it, but you
yes.
gotta keep it.
That's
So
right.
I'll get you some French in there to have you to let you keep
Oh, nice
your nice
romantic.
relationship.
Nice romantic language. Yes, 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 absolutely. Yes, that sounds very, very fun.
Chris, it was wonderful talking with you.
Yes.
It always is. You didn't have to twist my arm to talk to you again. It's nice to speak with bright and intelligent people that took interest in my business.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank
I
the
appreciate
fans for writing too for the questions. And,
Yes, indeed.
and
Yes,
tell them
indeed.
that I don't really hate Americans. It's just a gimmick. It's just a gimmick.
So you say. Jacques, it's been a pleasure, man. I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye, Chris.